we have an interesting resource that aims the question: could generative AI transform healthcare for the better? And at least according to one expert, the answer is yes. So we saw recently a new essay commissioned by Microsoft, actually, and written by Dr. Robert Wachter, who is the professor and chair of the Department of Medicine at the University of California, San Francisco. And in the essay, Wachter says he's optimistic that generative AI systems like GPT-4 have the potential to reshape how healthcare works. Now, he actually put GPT-4 through its paces in a variety of medical or healthcare related scenarios. And he even says, quote, "There is no question that GPT-4 represents a breathtaking advance in medical AI. I fed it a series of very tough clinical scenarios, the kinds of twisty turny cases that challenge our very best clinicians, and I found its overall clinical reasoning abilities akin to those of a very good medical resident, well beyond novice, but not quite expert." So Wachter actually argues that wider deployment of AI in healthcare could lead to a number of different benefits, from patients being able to manage some of their own health to reducing inefficiencies and expanding what each physician can do in a given day. And overall, this could lead to much better patient outcomes and reduce healthcare costs. Now, what's really interesting is Wachter also cautions that the barriers to achieving this cannot be minimized. And those include some significant barriers in the healthcare industry. One of them is he worries about the resistance to change from entrenched interests within the healthcare system. They will, he says, quote, "push back mightily against substantive changes in the flow of dollars and work." He also cites worries around privacy and data concerns, that could slow down AI innovation in healthcare as they try to navigate those issues. And also, he worries that the training of healthcare professionals and administrators will need to seriously evolve as we learn to work with and oversee AI systems. And it has to do so in a way that minimizes automation complacency and over reliance on technology in this very critical kind of human function. Now, Paul, you had shared a post about this on LinkedIn. What did you find most interesting? What caught your attention about this article in particular?
Yeah, I have a background in healthcare. When I ran my agency, we did a lot of work in the healthcare space. We have a lot of healthcare companies that are, subscribers to the institute. It's a topic we pay pretty close attention to. So one, I was interested just from a healthcare perspective. But two, the thing that really jumped out at to me was this was a domain expert, a doctor who sees firsthand the benefits. But what I had said on LinkedIn, it was a wonderfully balanced article based on both the opportunities and the obstacles of generative AI in healthcare. But the thing that I really took away from it is this experience, this perspective, I saw as being widely applicable to many industries that deal with sensitive data, high cost, both human and financial, for AI errors. So if the AI goes wrong, the impact is significant. And concerns around liability of the AI outputs and the need for humans to own the outputs because someone has to take ownership of what is created and recommended. So that was the main thing to me is I just thought it was such a well-written article that took a very balanced approach. Again, we've heard a lot of this existential threat to humanity, like it's going to be the downfall of humanity and all these concerns around the ethics and the safety. And a lot of times what happens is you have articles that take an extreme on either side or thought leaders that take an extreme on either side. And what we try and do very hard with this show is to find the middle ground. Like, what is the balance here? Understand the perspective of both sides, but say, okay, here's the reality of where we are. And I felt like this article did that. Like he did a great job of saying, listen, we're not ignoring the fact that there are risks here. There are threats that we have to accept. There's potential negative outcomes, but the potential positive outcomes are so significant that we have to work to get this right. But then as you called out, the one thing that jumped out to me in terms of like many industries are going to deal with is he said most of the stakeholders in the current healthcare system benefit from the status quo. That is so true. And we've talked about that, the law of uneven AI distribution previously. And that one of the ideas is that you're going to have to accept the technology to benefit from it. There are going to be a lot of industries and a lot of companies and a lot of executives who don't want to accept the benefits because it changes things so dramatically. So we've talked about any professional service firm, for example, that's still charging billable hours.
Mm,
That's going to be a really hard financial model moving forward. If you're in knowledge work and you're charging by the minute or by the hour for what you do, it is not going to take you as long. So you're either going to make less money or you have to find a way to move to a value-based model.
mm,
And that's very hard for like lawyers, marketing agencies come to mind. Um, so I do think that there's just a lot of status quo. There's going to be a lot of resistance, especially in big organizations, to change because a lot of people's careers and their success have been built on doing things a certain way, and they have no interest in doing it the other way. Another one comes to mind, like writers. We talk about writers all the time. We're
mm,
writers by trade.
right.
But a couple episodes ago, we talked about like the Hollywood writers strike. And this is the basic premise. Like they don't even want to acknowledge, like they don't want to use AI. They want to do what they do. And we're not saying it should in any way replace what they're doing. But there are so many people who have this resistance to even understand the tech,
Mm,
to figure out, okay, how can it actually make us better at what we do? They just see it as a threat to replacing them and they don't want to hear about it. I've experienced this at college universities with professors and administrators who don't want to hear about it. Um, we've talked with writers, designers, artists, like it, and that's our position is like, I think this article just does a really good job of accepting that there are fears and uncertainties, and potential negative outcomes. But if it can be done right, it can be dramatically transformative in a very positive way to an industry. And so this one is specifically for healthcare, but you can read this and apply the same kind of thinking to a lot of other industries. And so if you're in an industry or in a company where you're feeling this resistance,
mm.
this is probably a really good article to read just to give you a little bit of perspective.